You are bold, you are fearless, you are radiant. It's time to unlock the diamond from within. BFF, we rise above, stronger together, we shine with love. Faith unshaken, hearts on fire, fearless souls, we're reaching high.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the BFF Empowerment Podcast. With me today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Miss Barbara Mojica. She is an author who believes that if you do not know your history, then you don't know what you are talking about. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Women on the Rise episode.
It's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Yes, ma'am. So, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself before we jump right on in?
Well, as you said, I'm an author. I'm also a parent, a grandparent, and I have been an educator for all of my adult life. I started teaching at the age of 20. I started out in general education, working with children from K to 7. And after a time, I became kind of disillusioned with the way the educational system was working. And I saw so many kids whose needs weren't being met. So I went back to school for special education and I got certified in special education, which started a whole new exciting career for me because I learned to work with children who had all types of severe needs and needed educational adaptations in so many different ways. So I got the opportunity to work with speech therapists, PTs, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and I learned so many different ways of helping children. Eventually, that led me into being a director of a preschool for special ed, and eventually even working with the city on the other end as a district administrator, where I was in charge of testing, evaluating, and finding services for kids. So my
Mhm.
career kind of took a lot of different twists and turns. But my academic training originally was in history.
Mhm.
So I am a historian and I have a love of history. So that's why I really do believe that if we're going to understand how we got to where we are today and
Mhm.
how we're ever going to have any kind of possibility of planning for a better future, we need to know our history. So now that I am formally retired
Mhm.
from my career, I am trying to combine all of these passions to one interest. So I write books for children, I collect resources for parents, and I try to combine all the different aspects of my career into helping people in as many ways as I possibly can.
I love it. I love it. All topics that are very near and dear to me. So I am, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I am blind. And so I went through, since I lost my sight as the later years as a teenager, I didn't need like early, educational, but once I actually became blind, um, I needed services for high school, to get me through, high school and graduation and things like that. And then also I am a mom, and my son is special needs. He has ADHD, ODD, and he is on the spectrum. So I'm dealing with being his, not only an advocate for myself, but his advocate as well. And I've been advocating for him since he was born. Just with the different challenges and things that he's had to go through so far in his young 6 years of life.
Yeah, for sure.
So definitely right up my alley as far as the special education and making sure he gets the IEP that he needs, and he just transferred to a new school. So, you know, um he's actually dealing with I guess the teachers being aware that he has some different issues going on, and them being able to understand. So I requested, to have a parent teacher conference so that I could kind of let them know what's going on, what, his previous school did, what they were aware of, and ways that I can help them, get to know him and learn what works for him and what doesn't.
That's wonderful because there are so many parents who are left in the dark or who don't know where to turn, and
Mm-hmm.
it was always my mission to empower the parents and to give them as many ways possible to succeed. And sometimes that does mean, unfortunately, a long, hard fight with the
Mm-hmm.
officials that be in order to get what you need. And it's unfortunate that things really haven't improved all that much. And in
Mm-mm.
some areas, even it's more difficult today to get service.
Yes, like I really feel like I've been pushing and pushing and requesting testing and doing, and they're like, oh no, because my son is considered high functioning. So it's
Hmm.
hard to, basically tackle down what his needs are because he seems normal. But there are little things and issues like he just does not understand social cues and appropriate social behaviors. And then he has like a lot of behavioral issues, stemming from it because he doesn't understand. And then he also does speech therapy because he has a stutter, which also frustrates him and causes him
Yes.
to act out as well.
That very common. The social issues are often the biggest part, and so many children who are on the spectrum, they all have areas where they really excel, and sometimes there's such quirky areas that it appears that they're normal in most things, but then there are always these places
Mm-hmm.
where there are exceptions, and it's so hard to get service, and
Yes.
it's so different in different areas. Like if you're in a larger city, you're often able to get more,
Mm-hmm.
but if you are in a rural area, or where I live now, I live in a small town. It's very difficult to get service. So I mean, in the city, you would almost always, if child needed speech, get it 2 sessions a week. Whereas in a
Mm-hmm.
rural area or small town area, it's pulling teeth to get one
Exactly.
session.
Yeah,
Or
my significant other, he's from New York and he keeps trying to convince me that, we need to, because I live in North Carolina. And he was like, oh, if we were in New York, the services would be better and you would get this and that. But I'm like, I'm not a city girl. I've been born and raised in the South my whole entire life. That time I went there to visit, I was like, I would like to visit New York, but to live there is, yeah, I'm highly out of my element there. Like it's
well, yeah,
cool,
I
but
wouldn't
it's
want
just
to live there
not.
anymore either. I now live upstate New York, which is an entirely different world
Hmm.
from the city. Like,
Yeah, I was like, no. And then the cold, I'm very cold nature, so I said I can't handle the weather. Like it's just, yeah, it wouldn't be for me. But he was like, oh, he would get everything he needs, and I'm like, I feel like he's getting it here. Of course, it's just a little slower. But I feel like eventually everything is going to, work itself out and he's going to get exact because he's very intelligent and that's where his strength is. He catches on to things like his vocabulary for his age is huge. And it's always been that way. But he's an intellect, but he just suffers socially. He's awkward. He doesn't understand like just normal social cues and how to behave and interact with people and realize when someone doesn't want to be bothered or, he just keeps forcing himself on them.
has anyone ever I don't know again, in different areas, the IEP committees are set up differently. But whoever writes the plan, in some areas, you would have a psychologist write a behavioral intervention plan.
He has
And
that. Yes.
in other areas, it would be the special educator who would write it. So, or social worker. Just depends on the way that's set up. But the behavioral intervention plan then should be very specific, considering that he's high functioning. You would be able to give them input on the exact targeted areas where he might need help.
hmm
And
And
then
for
if
him,
that
a
were
lot of is explaining. Like you
Right,
have
if
to
that were written
explain
into the
things.
plan,
hmm
then you could have that as a goal that someone on the team would have to be working on. So the speech therapist then in conjunction with an educator or with a psychologist on the team could be
hmm
each addressing specific goals that we're going to target those areas. So,
hmm
if the parent is able to give really specific input
hmm
when the plan is being developed, then you can do a lot to kind of counteract
hmm
the resistance. If
Yeah,
there's a
what I've
goal and it's
always
on the IEP, then
yes.
it does have to be addressed.
Yeah, what I've always found, and that's always been my, I guess, frustration when it comes to this since he's been in school, is I'm with him majority of the time. So I know his ins and outs, his quirks, his this, his that. Whenever it comes to like when we did the IEP for kindergarten last year, like his teacher was like, basically they were like, based on my answers, my son was on the spectrum. Based on the teacher's observations, when she's also observing 25 other children, oh no, he's fine. He has some behavior problems, but it's not unlike any other child.
Is he in a class that is supposed to be in an integrated type setting, or is this it's just a general ed class?
He's just in a general ed. They pull him for like his EC class, like to work with him, because of the ADHD, he has hard time focusing and staying on task and, actually sitting down and doing the work. So they pull him, to work with the math and the reading, and then he goes back to the, regular class.
So that's why if you don't have a special educator doing the observation, someone in general ed is not going to pick up on
Mm-hmm.
those things readily. So
Yes.
see, that's one of the things. A lot of times they will put a higher functioning child in that general education and say, well, it just needs a little bit of extra support. But then sometimes there are times during the day when in a class of 20 or 25 kids, those things are going to still get a note, and he,
Mm-hmm.
really could use that extra. So
Yes.
that's one of the things again that today any child who has any type of special need really kind of needs somebody looking out for that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was a short period of time when I was working in a integrated class as team teacher, and it was a kindergarten integrated class.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a general ed teacher, and I was the special ed teacher. So that my responsibility was always looking out for that. There were 12 children in the class that had
Mm-hmm.
special needs, and the rest of the class, I think there were 22 class. The rest
Ooh.
of the class were general
Mm-hmm.
population, but we would write, we would do joint lesson plans, but I would just be zeroing in on the lesson from a kind of from a different viewpoint, keep looking out for ways I had to slightly adapt for these kids.
Mm-hmm.
But again, so that's harder when the child is in a general ed session. But again, the more specific goals that are addressed, zeroing in on those problem areas from as many angles as possible, whether it be BT or OT or speech or cognitive issues, the better you can work that. So it's really good that you're involved, and it's really good that
Mm-hmm.
you're meeting. And I would urge all of your listeners who have a child with any type of special need
Mm-hmm.
that they do that they go in, that they meet with the whole team, that they come in with a list of things that they
Mm-hmm.
that they look for, and then address, address those needs. I mean, that's really the best way that you can approach it
Hmm.
when child is going to be in that kind of general.
Yeah, because I just don't want, education is very, very important to me, and I don't want him to fall behind because they're not equipped to handle or work with him. So I've even, we are looking at actually moving all of our children to a Montessori type of school where there's smaller classroom settings, there's more
Uh-huh.
hands-on learning, because I feel like he would thrive better in that type of environment.
Yes, that's one of the things I found a really good option for some parents is a charter school
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
a Montessori or a community micro school, which has become a lot more available since COVID. A lot of communities with parents being unhappy with what they saw in the public schools, setting up their own, mini schools. And in a charter school or a micro school, you can have children going after their own particular interests and
Mm-hmm.
focusing learning that way. So you could have a child that's interested in music going to a school that offers musical training, or a child
Mm-hmm.
that's interested in art going to a charter school that has a focus on art. And whether the child has special needs or not, that does enhance their opportunity to learn because you're
Exactly.
focusing on something, that is really zoned into,
Mm-hmm.
their interests. So I know that that work. I had two children that kind of followed different paths too with my
Mm-hmm.
own children, and they started out in general ed, and then a kind of magnet program, chart of focus interest became available, and one of my children went to a school for arts and music,
Mm-hmm.
which I had never thought, but he excelled there, and
Mm-hmm.
then developed different talents and
Mm-hmm.
different passions, different interests, and that's one thing you can do with a child, whether the child has a special need, whether the child is gifted and talented.
Mm-hmm.
You have to focus in on their passion. Whatever child is at all curious about, I urge
Yeah,
them.
my son is really into science. That's his thing. He loves everything science. He's 6, but he loves everything science.
Well, then that would be the a type of a school to investigate something that's a lot of STEM.
And I've always done very STEM stuff with him from building, like since he was 2, able to play with toys. Like I've always bought like Marvel runs and Legos and things that he could actually be creative and build, things with. And so he's train sets and things like that where, yeah, it actually took him to build what it is he wanted to interact with. And so he's always loved anything dealing with science and building.
Well, parents are the first teachers, so
Mm-hmm.
it really, this is something I firmly believe in. Whether I was evaluating a child that was an infant or 2 years old, I would always, encourage parents to look at anything that the child is curious about, and pursue that. And it's fine if a child pursues something and then fails at it. Failure is very often our best teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes a child learns just as much from failing at something as succeeding at it, and it's good for children to understand that they need to explore different things, and it's
Yes.
okay if we're not. But teaching them to work on something, to try it, to finish it, and
Mm-hmm.
then if it's not their cup of tea, well, then to move on to something else. But understand that when they have a child, when they have a problem, that it's important. Try to find a solution to it. And not every
Exactly.
problem has solution we may expect them on, but it's something for parents to encourage at a very age.
Mm-hmm. And I think for me too, because I am a blind parent, I always wanted and found ways that I could teach him in a way that was accessible for me as well as for him from a visual aspect. Because I did homeschool him before he went to pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he did go to pre-K, like he was bored. He knew all of the stuff. He was like, "This is for babies. I already know this." Because I would work with him with his letters and alphabets, and we would take, nature walks, and I would teach him about rocks and leaves, and just I did very hands-on type teaching with him because I wanted to be able to interact with him as much as I could, from the aspect of me being a blind parent and him being a child who could see.
And that's important to get kids out into the community and to understand, first, of course, when our children are very young, they see everything through the eyes of the family. And
Mhm.
they learn that their family has different customs, different traditions, that they eat certain foods, that they dress certain way. And
Mhm.
then as they get older and they move out to the community and start to experience interaction with other children and see that not everything is the same,
Mhm.
they start to understand a bit more about history. They start to see the connections, that there are
Yes.
different cultures, there are different ways of doing things, there are different belief systems, there are different
Mhm.
traditional systems. And eventually, after they move into the community, they learn to see that there's a big, larger world out there of people that are very, very from themselves, and that different is okay.
Mhm.
And we are all part of a family, part of a local community, part of a large global as well. So,
Yes.
as parents, firmly, I believe the parent's greatest role is that of a mentor and for a
Mhm.
child. And a parent, while a parent is the mentor, a teacher parent has to communicate to the child that parents are not a quote just authority figure, but
Mhm.
that parents make mistakes well. And it's important for kids to understand nobody is wrong. And
Exactly.
that's really important in building trust with children, and the give and take. If you want a child to understand leadership, negotiate, how communicate with others, they have to understand so many. They have to understand to have compassion for people that are different, that have different points from there. And
Mhm.
if parents are not willing to demonstrate that give take, then children are not going to develop. So
Mhm.
a leader has to listen as much as
Yes. I truly
communicate
believe that.
knowledge. A leader has to be able to negotiate, to be fair, to not only be one of authority in charge, also listen, learn, see where. So those are all, really important skills that parents can start developing with kids as soon as they are old and communicate.
Mhm.
So if you have a good, strong foundation of that before the child gets, then the child will be a lot better equipped, no matter what kind of education this in. But I think you're really on the right path, looking at a Montessori school, looking to see what charter schools are out
Mhm.
there, what community school options are out there. And I encourage all to do that before they just say, okay, I'm going to register my child in the public school,
Mhm.
or I'm going to go to that universal pre-K, to
Mhm.
look and what's out there, because every child's learning style is different and every
Exactly.
family's uh,
Yeah, see, we're a blended family. So it's my son and then my significant other's two daughters. So we already kind of, when we signed up, we moved and we're not happy with the school they're at, but we were like, okay, they have to be in school. It's too late to kind of do. But the open enrollment for the choice schools actually start today. And so we were looking through the different, schools that they offer, and we're like, okay, maybe we should try a private school, a charter school, or a Montessori school for them. They all need those smaller classroom settings, that more hands-on learning. And I feel like, yeah, that's going to help them all to be successful. Um, where they can have that more one-on-one, not necessarily one-on-one, but that smaller, more attention type of atmosphere where their strengths can be magnetized.
well, I wish you luck with it. How long a period of time do you have to choose?
Well, it's open from today until I think it said November 30th, I think it is. So yeah, I'm literally I will be filling out the application today. Because it's going to be for the 2026-2027 school year. So I want to go ahead and if they're selected, that's where they're going to be starting next year.
Yeah, that's another thing, parents always have stay ahead.
Mhm.
There's so much going on. There's so much info floating out there. And in the world of rapid social media and multitask, there never seems enough a day. But you really have to zero in, set time ahead, really be aware of deadline because that can really sneak up on you. Oh no.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, you are a children's author. So can you tell us a little bit about your children's books and how many have you written?
Okay, well, that's how I started when I first hired. I wanted to keep in touch with children and I wanted to get back to history and stress important and critical thinking because I think a lot of our schools today fail in the critical thinking issue. So they're very good at teaching kids what to
Mhm.
especially in the public schools because we're teaching for the test, and the testing standard. And what has happened recently in the last 20 years, we've done nothing but gotten worse here in the United States. We used to be a top, number one in education globally. Now we're down past 20. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
not saying anything very good. We've gotten away from teaching the process, how to the who, the what, the when, where, why. How do we get to the end? It's not just what is the answer, but how do we think and how do we come to those conclusions? So my books are written with a history focus, but what I'm trying to do is get kids critical to
Mhm.
understand how we get there and to propose their own solutions. So all of my books ask children questions. I point out a lot of things that most people don't know, and
Mhm.
I try to focus on neglected people and places, events that not maybe everybody heard of. There are 17 books I'm still writing. I have books on some things that are very familiar, iconic sites like Statue of Liberty, Mount Rushmore, Ellis Island, and then some things that have a bit of a different multidisciplinary focus. So
Mhm.
I have books on archaeology like Ray Tar Pit. We talk about science, fossil stem. I have books on a lot of the national parks like Sequoia Park. So we talk about the red breed, sequoia trees, how they're the same, different, the animals that are in the park, the history of the park. And then we talk about problems park. So Sequoia National Park, even though we have beautiful park with Sequoia, we also have the most polluted park
Mhm.
national parks because of the diesel truck train traffic in San Valley. So I ask kids sometimes action healthy together. What do they think about? What are some of their ideas to how we solve some of these problems? In my Mount Rushmore book, we talk about the Native American, how they weakened from the
Mhm.
Native Americans, how Native American rights were not always respected. So we talk about Crazy Horse Memorial, which the natives are now building near Mount Rushmore. We talk about should there be monument, should there be what do they about the way rights are ignored. And some books are military history, like we talk about things
Ooh, my son would
Battleship,
love that.
Battleship Iowa, and how how the African American played an important role in the kamikaze attacks and prevention. So, and how there was one person, Alon Swan, who was this African American unit who unlike most of them, managed to survive. But he wasn't given the honor that should have been accorded and fought for 50 years and finally got highest for him. So we talk about all kinds of issues, problems. I try to make books.
Mhm.
Some of them are international, like the North Pole book. We talk about all kinds of things in the North Pole book. We talk about the 8 countries that claim territory in the Arctic and why they claim it. We talk about, of course, the animals that live in the Arctic. We talk about the literature and culture, like the nature of Santa Claus and how all of that developed.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, wow.
I focus on all different things, and I try to make the books be a jumping off point for
Mhm.
children to explore other issues. So I hit on a lot of different things, and from there, the children can go in a lot of different directions. If they want to learn more, they can go off for one of those other topics.
Mhm.
So that was my original focus, and the book has a character, Little Miss History narrates.
Mhm.
the adventure and makes the kids feel as if they're part of the journey. She's a quirky kind of comic cartoon character.
Okay.
My husband illustrates. He has a longer in art, children's books. Really kind of knows how to zero in. This the character Little Mystery is based on a younger version of me. So
I had to feel it.
explore and hike and be an adventurer. So and I wear these rose-colored glasses because I try to encourage children to have an optic view of. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of fun for them to come along, and I hope that maybe some of them will actually have the opportunity to visit some of these places someday. And a lot of parents kind of use the books
Mhm.
as springboard before they plan a trip
Mhm.
to one of these.
Oh wow. I love it. I'm actually also a children's author as well. I do adult books as well, but I'm actually about to publish my fifth children's book. But I started doing I've been writing since I was a kid. But I started publishing children's books once I became a mom. And I kind of published books based on my son's development. So like my
Mm-hmm.
first book was called Poetry for Tots, and it was just a book of poetry for toddlers, all about being a toddler, potty training and, learning how to walk and, just the different adventures that toddlers go through. And then there was a more poetry for tots where, it was more about learning your ABCs and learning your numbers and, more of an educational type of learning. And then I moved on to, more books once he started kindergarten. And then now he's, in first grade. So this book I'm actually writing is my first disability related book,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about a little girl named Braille. And it's a book teaching children about what it means to be blind. And so it's superhero day, but Braille comes dressed as herself, and she spends the day educating not only her classmates, but also her teacher on what it's like to be blind and what a day in the life of a blind person would be like. So since he's at that age where he's in first grade, they're learning to read. So it's still a picture book, but it's more educational and also just an early reader type of
That's
book.
great because it's that's what I really do with my books. I mean, my books they really go from K to 6 when I do in-person visit because they start out younger children understand the pitch, what the message
Mm-hmm.
is, and as they grow older, they are able to see the different layers, meaning, and when I present questions, the more interactive, critical aspects of
Mm-hmm.
the book. So I get great response from kids, whether they're in kindergarten or whether they're in 6th grade. They just interpret the material in a more sophisticated way
Mm-hmm.
and are able to look deeper. I mean, so I think that's important to try to write a book that a child can go back and revisit. And every time they look at the book, reread it, they're able to see something else within the story that.
Yes. And my son loves, telling everyone that, I write children's books and, I've donated, books to his class and libraries and, things like that. And I self-publish. So, I take on all of that myself. So with your writing, do you self-publish or are you with a publishing company?
We have my husband has been in the industry for a long time, written children's comics. So he has a small publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
So we do everything for the books except physical print.
Mm-hmm.
So I do the writing, I do the rewrites, and every book probably has a dozen rewrites. And it's done in conjunction with his vision of the book. The books
Mm-hmm.
are multidisciplinary because different aspects, but they're also visually done in very aspects. So we go to the site and take pictures. So the
Mm-hmm.
photography, sometimes the pictures are actual photographs of the
Oh,
site.
okay.
Sometimes they're a portrait, which draws.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then sometimes we have maps or other type of visuals that he puts in. So he does all the layout, the thumbnails, the layout, everything except the physical print. So
Mm-hmm.
we're not really self-published. We have the published small publishing company.
Mhm.
But yeah, everything except the print books to be printed, and then they're available worldwide.
Mhm.
So they're available sometimes in local in bookstores, sometimes in outlets like Walmart. Some available there. They're available, of course, online, bound, Barnes and
Yes.
Noble.
Yep, that's kind of what I do as well. Yeah, I just upload them all myself, but yes. Oh,
It's a
wow.
process.
Oh, yes, it is. So yeah, I do everything as far as the writing, editing. I have a illustrator. She does like all the illustrations for my children's books. She also does my formatting, as far as whether they're going to be a print book, a ebook, and then I usually, when I have books that are audio, I have a narrator that I use to narrate the audio versions of some of my books. And I've published 14 books to date, and I've co-authored. So I've written and published 14 books myself, and then I've co-authored four.
Right?
So yeah, it's definitely a very rewarding career because it's something I always wanted to do as a child, and it was something that my fifth grade teacher actually encouraged me to pursue. And when I went blind, I thought that dream was never going to be able to come true until I learned, about Braille. And then I learned, went from Braille to being able to use a computer and realizing, like, oh, okay, I may not be able to write in, notepads or, scraps of paper anymore, but now I can actually just write in a Word document, type up everything that I want to say and still, achieve that childhood dream of being an author. So, I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely a passion. So
So when it comes to your books and you being an educator, have you ever went back to some of the schools that you may have taught at, or to read your books, or you know kind of show who you are now?
in one or two cases, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Now that I don't live close to any of the schools.
Mhm.
Um, some of them have been changed or combined. I used to do addition a lot of one-on-one work
Mhm.
with special children. So I sometimes did early intervention care in the homes,
Mhm.
and I've kind of, in some cases, had opportunity to meet up with those children later on.
Mhm.
One great experience I had taught in a boy who was a low function child, and he was
Mhm.
also drug, and he was being raised by a grid. And when he was 6, so this 3 years after taught him preschool, she brought him back. When we had him, he totally, and we got
Mhm.
him to speak, one word here and there. And he came back with her and walked in. He gave me a sentence. My name is, and I was like, oh, jumping through different floors. um,
Wow.
but it's that kind of, and then one little girl that I had taught when I was general education, I met up with her mom, bike accident years later, and she told me how well she was doing. I was the one that had courage to take her test.
Mhm.
And, she now worked, has a job, you know, those kind of stories.
Yes, I
It's
love it.
it's very not so much with my books. I did have the opportunity to go back and once twice. A lot of the administrations changed, teachers have,
Mhm.
but the special ed case that work one on individual. What I have found most.
Mhm. Okay. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we have come to my favorite part of the show where we play What is she thinking? I will give you five random phrases. You tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't have to think too hard about it. Just something a little fun to get to know you.
Okay,
All right. So your first one is education is
education is happiness.
happiness. I like it. All right. Keep your hands off my.
Death.
All right. Let's see. You can't have coffee without
Breakfast.
breakfast. Okay. And let's see, your fourth one is reading is
Power.
power. Love it. And your last one is color my skies
Blue.
blue. All right. Well, thank you so much for participating. Is there any last words, any websites, anything that you would like to leave the listeners with where they
Well,
can reach
yes.
out to you?
We've talked about a lot of different things,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of different topics. I have tried to provide a wealth of resources for children, and so on my website, I have linked to wherever they might like to go.
Mm-hmm.
So my website is simply littlehistory.com, and
Mm-hmm.
from there they can get information about the different topics of the books, read about what people have to say about. But they can also go to my blog where I provide all kinds of tips and resources as well as book reviews. So if anyone's looking at books, any subject, I have a Pinterest board where I collect resources, everything, whether it be book, whether it be different as parenting, whether it take care of your home, teach children, and I do have a YouTube.
Okay.
They can click on the link for YouTube, take the YouTube channel, and I have all kinds of videos there for kids. They can learn about history told by kids. They can have teaching lessons. So I do supplementary mini lessons for parents or teachers if they're looking for various, like, how to tell the difference of fact and or different lessons, science or math or, almost anything. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the place to go for
Okay.
any of the types of resources they might be looking. Just go to the website and click on the link for the blog, the YouTube, Pinterest, whatever they might be.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to visit the podcast, listen to the podcast on all major podcasting platforms. Don't forget to also visit our website at bffempowermentpodcast.com to stay up to date on all the latest episodes. If you would like to be a spotlight on the Women on the Rise segment of the podcast, send an interest email to bffempowerment@gmail.com. Also, you can follow us on social media. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads as BFF Empowerment Podcast. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave a review or a rating on your favorite podcast platform to help others find and discover their next favorite empowerment podcast. And thank you so much for listening, everyone. See you next time.